Welcome, ladies, and welcome, everybody. My name is Margery Kraus, and I am the founder and executive chairman of APCO Worldwide, a global consulting firm that has been fortunate enough to deal with a lot of cities around the world. And I welcome you to this topic. And I think it's really important in a session that's the World Government Summit and talks so much about multilateralism that we remember where the action really is, and it's on the front lines. And those front lines are the cities. And we have three people joining us today who collectively have almost 100 years of experience in cities. I'm counting myself, so don't worry, lady. It's not a judgment. But I thought that we would all learn a lot from this. So what I hope we could do is come away from this session with some lessons learned that we can play forward for other people who end up on the front lines in the cities around the world. So I'm very, very happy to do this. And I think since you've already have the introductions, I'd like to we have such little time. I'd love to just get into the discussion directly. And maybe what we could do is start with the idea of, if you could shortly just give us a sense of your journey to how you got to where you are, and then what you found as you're looking at the infrastructure. What was the challenge that you had to deal with as you came? And then we'll talk about solutions in a minute. So if we could start, why don't we start the Honorable Aki-Sawyerr, from the mayor of Freetown, Sierra-Leone.
Thanks very much, Margery, and thank you so much to the organizers, the UAE, for having us here. I smiled when she said, why don't we start with a short question of how did you get here? How do you make that short?
So a short answer to the journey, a long journey.
In brief. I'm not from a political background, never been interested in politics. I came from the private sector. But what moved me, my decision eventually started when the Ebola outbreak happened in Sierra Leone in 2014. I found myself unable to watch from the sidelines. I got involved, became director of planning, and that brought me, post-Ebola, to the role of managing the transition, the socioeconomic development plan post-Ebola. For the first time, I was working with government. And being a Freetonian, being someone from my city who loves the environment and loves nature, I saw a devastation of our natural landscape happening, and I saw a gap that the city was not playing its role because it didn't have the systems, the processes, nor the plans to address those. So being a woman, as you know, women were sort of like, you see a problem, you try and fix it. 9 months before the election, never been a political party, I threw my hat in the ring. I ran and I won. First female elected mayor, first person in that position in 40 years.
And I know that you have a long history, and can you tell us how you rose in Colombo in Sri Lanka?
Let me just first start by saying first of all, let me thank the World Government Summit for inviting us to be here, and for the Women's Summit as well. Let me start off by, since we're talking about women and empowering women, Sri Lanka had the first woman prime minister. Even though we have had a history of having women leaders, female representation back in home at parliament or the provincial level or the local level has been very low. When I was listening to all the other panelists, and when they talk about countries like Rwanda, countries such as yours, have such a magnificent number of women that have made change, I am very sadly saying that our parliament representation is very minimal, 5%. At the local councils, it was 2%, until 2018, when we brought in, affirmative action to me is the key in order to have women in the forefront in politics. We brought in a reservation of seats of 25%, which enabled women to come into the local councils. But me, I have been a member of parliament before. I have been a minister of child affairs, and now I'm the mayor of Colombo. I have been in politics for almost 30 years. And it has been a struggle. The members that are in parliament, I would say, are members who have a tailor-made, ready-made voter base. They have a political lineage. but you just mentioned that you didn't have a political background. But I must say that I have come through the rank and files. So I'm very proud to say that I have been a women's activist, and I have always wanted to, basically support communities, women, and work at women's rights at large. So that is what brought me and brought me as mayor of Colombo.
And Mayor Karić, you said you're the second woman mayor for Sarajevo, but the youngest ever. So she was elected on her birthday.
Oh.
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to greet you all, and I want to thank the organizers for this beautiful event. It's our great pleasure and honor to be here with you. I am Benjamina Karić, 39th mayor of Sarajevo, the capital city of Bosnia and Herzegovina. I am the second woman mayor in the history of the city and the youngest mayor. As my colleague said, I was elected before 1 year on my 30th birthday, so it was the best birthday gift ever. I come from a very traditional family, and my father didn't allow me to go in politics before I finished my PhD. So that was his vision. First, finish your school, finish your PhD, and then you can go in politics and you can be engaged. So I finished my first degree at the Faculty of Law and the Faculty of History. So I finished 2 public faculties in the same time. And after that, I finished my master's degree and my PhD at the Law Faculty at the University of Sarajevo. So in that moment, I had 26 years, and I was the youngest PhD in Bosnia and Herzegovina. After obtaining my PhD, I started my career as a professor at the law faculty. So even now, when I'm a mayor, I teach Roman law at the Faculty of Law. And I really enjoy that. But last year, I had an opportunity to be a candidate for a mayor. And for me, the most important thing is that I received all votes from all political parties in Sarajevo, and that never happened before. So I had full support from all colleagues, from all political parties, with all votes. So I really want to do my best to show that this confidence is important for me and that I will do my best for my city.
I noticed they shortened our time for the session, and I wanted to do this background because I think it's important that we as women bring our whole selves to our jobs. And so we have 3 different paths to solving some of the major issues. And so in the time we have left, perhaps we could just go through and say, what did you face, and how can you assure that what you're doing is going to be inclusive from a gender point of view and to solve problems?
Like I said, the reason I ran for office was because of the scale of the challenges I saw. I mentioned the environment because that was dearest to my heart. But in running for office and going through, I was able to identify that what I was seeing, driven by climate change, actually had significant impacts on all sectors of the city. So the challenge we face is one of rapid urban migration. We've seen our city's population grow from 500,000 to 1.5 million people in under 30 years. That's a massive growth, where in the absence of development planning, it leads to challenges with infrastructure, housing, health, etc. What I've done in this time, and I actually should say we, because that's one of the things about women, that we are able to collaborate, we are able to join the dots and bring everybody on board. We started a program, it's in its 4th year now, because I'll be 4 years next month, of #Transform Freetown. In brief, 4 clusters, 11 priority sectors, and very, very significantly, 19 measurable targets. Putting our feet to the fire, saying to the city, this is what we're going to deliver. From work in childcare, in healthcare, what are the big achievements? I'm conscious of time. Big achievements across those 19 priority sectors. I've got to start with the environment. Freetown, the tree town. We are planting 1 million trees in our city, 550,000 already in the ground, creating jobs for women, creating jobs from youth generally, another big achievement, a complete revolution of our property rate system, revenue system. Why? Because without the revenue, the sustainable revenue, you can't actually deliver services. And then little things, which are big things when you think about it from a woman's lens. We've introduced nurseries for market women's children, which are free of charge. We've built one, seems little, but in our context is huge. Second one is underway. The list goes on, but importantly, Transform Freetown has women and girls as a theme running through. It means in everything we do, we prioritize them. We ensure that digital learning is happening for women. Urban farming, it's happening for women. Jobs in sanitation, they're happening for women. And as a policymaker, we've actually done a review now of our HR, and I was shocked to actually get the facts and figures to confirm that in the city, we had only been employing 25% of women. That's going to change. It's actually, Rosy, it's not our story. Our story is more like yours. We were the first country or the first region in the world, 1792, the first democratic election, which included women, was in Sierra-Leone, in Freetown. We've just celebrated that. But sadly today, out of our 22 local authorities, only 3 are run by women, and only 12% of parliamentarians are women, less than 10% of women in cabinet. The difference is clear. Without women, who make up 50% of our population, without them being at the table, having that center stage, we will continue to lag behind. That's evidence that we're seeing. Our role now as women is to change that dynamic.
Well, congratulations. And I know from talking to Rosy before that Colombo, that you have done a lot to change the balance between men and women in government. And maybe you could talk a little bit about what you're doing.
Colombo is the largest and the oldest city in Sri Lanka. The Colombo municipality goes back to 157 years. I am the first ever woman mayor elected. So that tells a story about the Sri Lankan scenario. While saying that, Colombo has a population of 700,000 people, and the vast majority, 52% of their population are women. And out of the 700 population, 60% of them are the underserved community, and they face quite a number of issues, whether it's low-cost housing, sanitation, women not having employment, daycare, preschools, as you quite correctly said, the labor participation, female labor participation in the labor force is a mere 30%, which is appalling. So these are things that I took into consideration, and I want to increase and improve the labor participation of women. So enabling women with self-employment schemes and supporting them in those areas. And also, my primary objective and primary goal was to put in a lot of effort with regards to education. I strongly believe that early childhood education, early childhood development is an absolute of paramount importance for the future. If you're talking about, because even the First Lady of Colombia in her speech mentioned about, if you educate a child, especially young children and the early childhood education, building brains, building future, which is the UNICEF concept, is you will have a more productive, a more skilled, and a more, I would say, with the right mindset, right attitude people coming into the labor force, and a more productive nation. So for me, building brains, building future, the UNICEF concept was an absolutely important element. So I have been creating through multidisciplinary community centers, early childhood education, also daycare, because that's one of the reasons to why the labor force, female labor force, is very low in Sri Lanka. The hindrances are that no proper safe transportation. Not that we don't have transportation, but women are not safe in public transportation. And also there is no proper childcare. So these are some of my primary objectives, apart from the more important infrastructure development, like from arcade sewer systems to giving the population clean drinking water, which have tied up with some of the international funding agents like the ADB and the World Bank, which are some ongoing projects at the moment. And also we have a tree planting program, like what you said. You are targeting 1 million, but my objective is 100,000 for this year. So that's one of the other things which women would eventually benefit. By large, I would say that by empowering women and educating the children, you would find a more productive city. Because I strongly believe, unless and until one would invest in human capital, you will not see the light at the end of the tunnel. So for me, investing in human capital is one of the most important elements. Talking about also violence against women, I should be talking about that, but that's also one of the major issues that we are faced with. So I have partnered with agencies like UNFPA and some of the donor agents in order to eradicate violence against women. And we've been doing work on the ground where a lot of advocacy with regards to empowering women on the services and their rights, the services that we do provide for women, and their rights are very important, because even though we have a very high literacy rate, when you talk about gender indicators with regards to education and health, Sri Lanka tops the list in the region. We top the list in comparison to India, Nepal, Bangladesh, all those countries. Even though we have a very high literacy rate and a very good primary healthcare system, we do have gray areas which we need to address. And these are some of the areas that I've been addressing as the mayor with the support of UNFPA and some of the donor agents and the UN agencies.
Thank you. I know we're just about out of time, but I really am anxious to hear, Benjamina, from what you have been, if you're facing the same issues and dealing with them. And I think from what I'm hearing, you all are a little bit ahead of what we're doing in the United States, which is still a shame that we're not addressing things like childcare and some of the basic things to get women back to work after they've all been hit so much by what's happened with COVID and everything else. So please, let's hear from you.
First of all, I want to say that city of Sarajevo is a very specific city. It's a very famous city all around the world. It's Olympic city with amazing culture, city where East and West are kissing. So with mixture of cultures, multicultural city. And as a mayor, I really want to preserve our diversities. So that's the main goal for me in this mandate, to show that diversities are our greatest and biggest, I would say, the biggest and the most important value. But when I was elected, my son had 4 months, so he was a small baby. And I watched him, and I knew that I'm leaving him at home, so I need to make a better future and a better city for him and all other children. So in this moment, I'm running very important project, infrastructural projects. As you know, Sarajevo is a city which was under the longest siege in the modern history. So this year, 2022, we have 30 years from the beginning of siege of Sarajevo. And still we are reconstructing the objects which were destroyed during the aggression on Bosnia and Herzegovina. So among the big infrastructural projects, I'm really trying hard to work on green politics. I'm working hard on cultural projects, sport projects. You know that in Sarajevo, we have the best film festival in the region. So I'm sure that this year we will have the best Sarajevo Film Festival ever during August. So I will kindly invite you all to come in Sarajevo, to come to visit our Sarajevo Film Festival. I assure you that it will be a great pleasure. So Sarajevo is a city of 1,000 bridges, but not only bridges in mechanical way. So I'm doing my best to make bridges in culture, to make bridges in sport, to make bridges with all other European mayors and world mayors. Sarajevo is the heart of Europe, and our country is heart-shaped. So I think that we have a lot of opportunities, and as a mayor, I'm doing my best to present my city, but also to work for people in Sarajevo, because people are our most important value. We have really good people with a good soul.
I'm sorry that we're out of time, because I think you three are inspirational and give us hope that what is going on around the world, especially at the local level, is not only more inclusive, but we're looking at some real problems and trying to solve them and there's so much commonality in what you face. But I think the optimism and the experience you bring to the job at least makes me feel confident about the future. So I'd like to thank you all very much for this time we've had together.
Thank you.